Hey Dream Drivers, this week's episode of Dreams and Drive is brought to you by Charmin. Charmin has long-lasting mega rolls that aim to give you a better bathroom experience. Those who use Charmin really enjoy the go. Hey Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 257 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And this podcast is a special one. It's late, but I'm still going to be celebrating. It's a happy 5 years to Dreams and Drive. I launched Dreams and Drive on January 1st, 2016, and we are now well into 2021. And I wanted to make this episode just to talk about all that I've learned over the past year, just how much my life has changed in the past year, and also just giving myself a little kudos for making it to 5 years. I know this is a monumental year. A lot of podcasters don't often make it to the 5-year mark, so I wanted to make sure just to take some time to celebrate with you all. And also thank you for being part of the journey. If you're a dream driver and have been listening in since episode 1 with David Michael Jones, now we're all the way at episode 257. You've probably seen just how much the show has grown over the years. You've probably witnessed my own personal journey as well as the journey of our guests if you've tapped into them and followed them. While I can't get into the details of everyone's journey, I'm just really proud of how far I've come. And I wanted to take some time to reflect and kind of interview myself a little bit about the lessons I've learned over 5 years and just where I see Dreams and Drive heading. But before we get into that, guys, as always, if you enjoyed this episode, you want to celebrate with me, please make sure you're sharing this with your community. You can do so by tagging us and reposting across social media. We are Dreams and Drive across the board, and you can use the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing as well. Also, guys, in celebration of 5 years, we are having a 10% off sale of our Dreams and Drive merchandise. So if you want to get a Dreams and Drive t-shirt or a crew neck sweatshirt, just use the code CELEBRATE for 10% off your order. That's CELEBRATE for 10% off your order, and you can go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. That's dreamsanddrive.com/shop to order your gear. All right. So 5 years, guys, 5 years of Dreams and Drive. You know, I was trying to think of ways that I could format this episode. So I really have like a few different methods of attack here, but let's start with the stats. Every year I normally share like the best of stats, wow stats. And this year I'm going to be truthful. 2020 was really the slowest year I've had yet. As you guys all know, I'm a new mom. I got pregnant in 2000, or I found out that I was pregnant in 2020, top of the year. And I really took it slow. And it's funny because in 2019, I kind of knew that I needed to kind of step back a little bit, think about what I wanted to do with Dreams and Drive. So 2020 was never really going to be the year that I thought I was going to be making strides and doing all sorts of new things with the podcast. I had just come off of doing a Dreams and Drive production project with Side Hustle Pro and helped her produce her live show. So I was going to venture into doing more service-based opportunities. So working with another podcaster, Jamila Soufran of Journey to Launch, for her live event. And then COVID happened. That kind of stirred everything up. So life in 2020 was definitely a little bit crazy. But it really forced me to sit back and relax and just settle into the life that I was growing and figuring out where I was going to go from there. So the stats that I will share was, although I did take it slow, I did still produce 22 episodes in 2020. That is in comparison to normally every year I'm doing 50 plus episodes. So decreased the amount of episodes by 50% or more, but I still was able to put out content. I still was able to interview some people. And I really did think that at least staying relevant and making sure I didn't stop 100% gave me this momentum. I reached 1 million downloads in 2020. So that is a huge feat that I'm very, very proud of. I know that a lot of podcasters are looking to hit that 1 million mark. Some people hit it early. Some people hit it. It takes a long time. So when I hit that 1 million mark for myself, it made me think back to the reason why I started Dreams and Drive. And I remember it so vividly, right? That question that I got asked, or the thing that I was told, is there's so many other people who are as smart as you, who are out here doing things. What's stopping you? And I really had to sit back and say, what is stopping me? And it was myself that was stopping me. So for me to see how far I've been able to come in 5 years, being an independent podcast, not having any backers, not having any funders, doing everything myself, which I could say was a little bit self-limiting. Maybe I would have been more ahead if I had brought in help or are bringing more help. But just knowing that I've been an independent podcaster, producing, editing, sourcing guests, booking guests, doing all this stuff, like it is the biggest testament to if there's a will, if there's a way, if there's something motivating you, if there's something in your gas tank that's lighting you up, setting you on fire, there are ways to get it done. And I said to myself, what will happen if I show up for myself every week? Because in my blogging career, I wasn't showing up for myself. I wasn't really promoting myself. I wasn't believing in the vision that much. And so I don't think I really got as far, or maybe it was not my calling. Maybe that's not where I was supposed to go. It was supposed to be part of my journey, but that wasn't going to be the thing that would reveal so many more blessings to me. So I'm just so happy that I did decide to do podcasting and have reached this 5-year mark, right? 22 episodes, 1 million plus downloads. Thank you to all the guests over the years. A lot of you guys have become friends, have become internet buddies, social media supporters, people that I go to for help. I really do appreciate you guys. So I had some questions here that I wanted to ask myself. So I kind of want to interview myself and then just tell you guys what my answers are. And this is not rehearsed. So all I had was just the questions. I didn't even do listener and answer questions. I normally do that, but I just feel like every year the questions are kind of along the same lines and I kind of say the same answers. So let me ask myself questions and then answer them, okay? All right. So the first question that I have is, how does it feel to have reached this 5-year mark? For me, I'm not surprised. I think the biggest feeling that I feel right now is pride and joy and hope. I say pride because when you're starting something in the beginning, you really are taking faith. You're taking a risk. You're betting on yourself. And the fact that I was able to keep going despite so much that I've been through over these past 5 years, right? There's so many ups and downs, navigating a full-time job, quitting that job, life, personal things, being pregnant, trying to figure out like, where am I going? What am I doing? But still, the one thing throughout all the chaos in my life, beauty, chaos, whatever, has been this podcast, has been the mission, has been my calling. I posted on Instagram the other day, if it's your calling, it's going to keep calling you, right? You can't run from it. You can't run from your gift. And so for me, it's this pride. It's this reminder that I do have a passion. I do have a very unique storytelling ability, and Dreams and Drive is going to be a vehicle for me to use that and to share it and to help others realize their own stories within themselves. So for me, I am very prideful and I am very glad. And I think it's hope because a lot of times when you're venturing out on something, you don't really know where it's going to go. So if it's still here 5 years later, to me, that's a sign that it means something. To me, that's a sign that my tree has roots. And that as the years go by, the roots are getting deeper and deeper. So there is strength in this 5 years. A lot of times, it's funny because, we think of the markers. We think of like 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I would still feel this way 6 years, 7 years. But I do think making it to this first monumental marker, that 5-year mark, is like, Rainy, you're doing your damn thing. But at the same time, I think it has also forced me to... It's also really forced me to think about what's next, right? Are you elevating? Are you at the same spot that you were at 5 years ago? And I definitely am not, but could I be further along? Is there more that I can accomplish so that at the 10-year mark, I'm not still at the same level that I was at 5 years? So that's also something that I've been thinking, and that has been something that I've been feeling as well. So the next question I have is, do you remember why you started? Yeah, that's something that I ask my guests a lot, and I do remember why I started, right? I think I started, number one, as a test to myself to see what could happen if I really believed in myself and showed up for myself. A lot of times we aren't showing up for ourselves, and then we're wanting things to be different. But if you're not going to show up for yourself, you can't expect your gift to show up for you. You can't expect others to show up for you. And I knew that if I really wanted to be known for storytelling, if I really wanted to impact people, more people, then I had to do something different. And that was showing up for myself every week, producing an episode no matter what. And I was doing that up until 2020, right? 2020 is when I got a little bit more lax. But now I'm at a place now with the baby. I'm at a place now in my own life where I need to get back on that hustle and that consistency. So I started because I wanted to see what would happen if I showed up for myself. And what I saw happen was results. Point blank, period, was results. And if you're listening in right now and you're questioning why there aren't results happening, whatever you're doing, whatever dream driving you're trying to build, is you have to ask yourself, are you showing up for yourself? Are you truly focusing? Are you truly, I'm not 100% believer in going 1,000% if you're not at the level where you can expend that energy, but are you doing as much as you can? And are you pushing yourself? Are you challenging yourself? And I really podcasting at that time was kind of new. The space of talking about business with Black women, women of color, people of color, a Black woman-led host talking about business and entrepreneurship. There weren't that many people doing it yet. And so for me, I was really looking up to like people like Lewis Howes and Gary Vee. And I'm like, there could be other people who are having just as stunning conversations and also making a mark in this industry. And I love talking to people. I love sharing their stories. And I knew that just writing up interviews weren't going to cut it and I wasn't going to impact as many people. So thinking back to why I started and thinking back to all that I did before podcasting made me realize there's still yet so much for me, but I have to continue to show up for myself and I have to continue to push myself. And all right, 2020 was a year off. And now the beginning of 2021, I'm learning the baby. I'm figuring out myself again. And I know there's going to be new challenges that I can step into. And I'm really excited about that. Really excited. So the next question I had, what has been the hardest part of getting to 5 years? Honestly, I think the hardest part is being okay with where I have gotten. And I say that because this is what happens, all right? I'm going to be totally transparent with you guys. There was a time when Dreams and Drive was getting like 20 downloads an episode. Those first few episodes, 50 downloads, 100 downloads an episode. And I thought that was amazing. And for some people who are listening in right now, you may be at those numbers and those are still great, right? But then what happens is you get to a point where you get to another level, right? So I was averaging maybe, let's say, 3,000 downloads an episode in a week or something. And I was like, oh, okay, people are listening in. And that kind of leveled off and that kind of stayed there. And so for me, when I look back at my numbers and look back at my growth, I sometimes wonder, like, why did I kind of level off? What is it that I need to take to do to take Dreams and Drive to the next level? I've really experimented a lot over these past 5 years, tried to really know who my audience is, but I think I kind of reached this point where I wasn't getting as many new listeners as I wanted. And what I started to do was compare myself. And that's one of the worst things that you can do as an entrepreneur. Compare myself to other podcasters, compare myself to people in other industries and say, they're doing it. What's wrong with me? Why isn't my podcast getting, selected for these awards? I was here first. Why is this podcast, who's only been around for this many months, doing this and getting these guests? Or I started to really down myself in a lot of ways. And I think that when you're building something that's unique and when you're building something that you really do enjoy, then you feel a way when things aren't happening the way that you want them to happen. Or you may be happy for others, but at the same time, you kind of got that little needle in your back saying like, dang, like I wish that was me. And I have to stop that because we all are on our unique individual journeys. And I tell myself, you never know what someone is going through. You never know what was going on behind the scenes, behind the mic, and how they got to that or what they had to sacrifice. And maybe you're not willing yet, or maybe you're not at that level yet where you want to do those things, or maybe that's just not for you. Everyone's journey is for them, and that journey may not be for you, and being all right with that. That's something I've had to learn over these 5 years is staying focused on who you are, but being open to seeing other perspectives, seeing other experiences, but never feeling like that has to be it for you, because what's for you is for you. And that's something that I truly believe. What's for you is for you, but getting to be okay with that is one of the biggest things that anyone has to face along this journey. This episode of Dreams and Drive is brought to you by Charmin. Those who use Charmin really enjoy the go. Charmin has a variety of products to help satisfy your to-go needs. So now we're talking about our bathroom experience. That's one thing that we all have in common as dream drivers. All of us have to go, right? Why not enjoy the go with Charmin? I don't know about you guys, but for me, softness matters. At home and in the bathroom, I want to make sure that all my products are feeling good against my skin. And Charmin has a variety of products that can help make your to-go experience that much better. There's Charmin Ultra Soft, which has irresistible cushiony softness. Charmin Ultra Strong for superior strength and absorbency. Or you can even try Charmin Flushable Wipes and get the freshest clean Charmin has. And if you're like me, you don't have time to always be running to the store to replenish your stock. So you can't forget about Charmin's long-lasting mega rolls, right? Those really do come in handy when you're busy and you don't always have time to restock your supply. Overall, Charmin's just aiming to give us a better bathroom experience. And at Charmin, they believe that won't happen if you finish it all off with the wrong toilet paper, which is why they make toilet paper that's just right for everybody. There's something to fit whatever your needs are. So try Charmin and enjoy a better bathroom experience. Were there any personal transformations that you undergone over these past 5 years? Podcasting has helped me become more sure of myself. There's one thing that has been consistent: feedback throughout this 5 years of podcasting, and it has been, Raina, you ask really great questions. And I'm going to keep it there because there is something, you guys listening in, there is something that you are uniquely good at. And there is something that people tell you all the time that you are great at. And sometimes you may think it's nothing. Someone may say, you are really good at braiding hair. You are really good at slicing lemons. We each are born with these unique gifts that we oftentimes play down. And for me, the personal transformation over these 5 years is realizing that there is power in being a good question asker. And there's power in being confident in your power. Maybe that's the bigger lesson, right? When you're confident in your power, it's going to help you in so many ways. It becomes your little armor in life. For example, I had to do an interview today. And I'm by no means promoting that you shouldn't prep as much as possible for interviews, but I have a kid now. I really wasn't able to prep as much as I could for this interview, but I still asked really good questions because I wanted to find the answer out to things. And sometimes you don't have to prep 100,000 minutes before in order to get answers, in order to be inquisitive. And that's just something that I've honed in over these past few years. Another personal transformation for me over these past 5 years has been, you gotta take risks. You gotta do something different. You can't be so afraid. And for me, the things that I've been afraid of, was doing in-person events. And when I did that Dreams and Drive dinner party back in 2019, it was a hit. Then I did another little happy hour. It was not as big as I expected, but the people who came loved it. They supported me, and I really appreciated that. And I have had plans for, did I have plans? Well, I think for me, I can take more risk. I think I could take more risk. Like, the one thing that I haven't done, and let me ask this as a question, what's the one thing you regret the most over these past 5 years, is I think I just have really been nervous to charge people for things. I mean, I have my merchandise. You guys can shop the Dreams and Drive shirts, Dreams and Drive crew necks, hoodies, all that stuff, dreamsanddrive.com/shop. But I haven't had any digital products. I haven't had any physical products beyond merchandise. I think I still wasn't confident in charging people for things like that, or creating my own proprietary IP that I could then sell. But knowing that I really good in a lot of areas. People come to me for a lot of things. I had consultations, but not really booking those and pushing those consultations. So for me, when I look back, I sometimes wonder, was I selling myself short? And I hope that in the years to come, now that I'm a mom, that has really ushered into me a new confidence. Back before September 2020, I didn't know if I would be able to do this, but now we're here in February 2021 and my son is almost 5 months and he's thriving, and it's making me show that sometimes you have to just dive deep into the water and stop worrying about if you're going to be able to come up for air, because what I find is that you may realize that you're a fish and you can breathe underwater. That's a quote right there. That's something I've definitely learned. A lot of times when you're thrown into the fire, you may think you're going to burn, but what's really happening is you become the fire itself and you adapt and you thrive. So for anyone who is going through something and thinking like, I don't know if I'm going to make it out, remember that, all right? And then the question that I wanted to ask, and a lot of people ask me this too, is what's next? What's next for Dreams and Drive? I yet don't know. I want to return to guest interviews. I love them so much, but I know there's more ways for me to be innovative. There's more ways for me to tell different types of stories. I want to connect with dream drivers who may not be like, let's say, these big names, whatever, but have unique stories, because at the core of Dreams and Drive is stories about people who are taking their dreams out of park and putting them into drive. And we can be inspired from anyone. And so that's something for me that I really want to tap into, do more dream driver spotlights, and just find new ways to expand the vision. I hope anyone listening in right now realizes that sometimes the dream takes time to unfold and the dreams evolve as you go. A lot of times I feel like we live in a society where there's this get rich quick or get entrepreneurial quick. You guys know what I'm trying to say here, but it can take a while sometimes for things to evolve. And the best businesses, you think about Nike, right? Nike has been around for decades and they're still evolving. But those first few years of Nike, it was still Phil Dorsey going door to door. And that hustle was very grassroots. So I believe in my vision. I know that there's a lot more to come for me, and it's all about me just sticking through. And if you're in the same spot, anyone listening in, if you feel like, all right, it's been years now, why haven't I reached this one place? I hope that you can look to Dreams and Drive and see that each of our journeys are very unique and there isn't one singular pathway to success. So remember that, all right, guys? So I wanted to end out this episode with some lessons that I've learned, right? These are 6 quick things that have really spoken to my soul over the past year. The first one is the journey has to start from somewhere. Right? That means you have to get started. And if I had never got started that summer in 2015, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I didn't know anything about podcasting. I say this every year I do recaps. When I started Dreams and Drive, I did not know anything about podcasting. I did not know about the industry. I had listened to podcasts, but that was it. I had to learn it myself and really take the time to get acquainted, to build relationships, to build knowledge. And that's what I continue to still do. Anything that I don't know, I figure out how can I figure it out, right? The second thing that I've learned this year is that life happens, but what will you do, right? And for me, it was like, all right, beginning of the year, January, I found out I was pregnant. Was I going to quit Dreams and Drive? No. Was I going to have to slow down? Yes. And remember, when you're building something, things will be happening. Remember, when you're building something, things will happen. We cannot predict the future. We cannot predict anything. You might face a medical emergency. You might have to deal with a family or personal situations. You don't know. We did not know that a global pandemic would take over our lives for more than a year or almost a year now. That's not something we could have predicted. But yet we have to find ways to evolve and to cope and to change with the changing times. For anyone who's building anything, it's important to remember that there are going to be unexpected things that come up, unintended consequences. There are going to be things that you may not be prepared for, but you can get through it. Number 3 is you will not love every moment of the journey. Over these past 5 years, I would be lying to you if I said I loved everything, right? There are some times where I didn't want to be editing, where I didn't want to be doing interviews, where I just kind of wish I could just sit back and Dreams and Drive would build itself. But that's not realistic, right? That's not realistic at all. So remember, you will not love every moment of the journey, but every moment of the journey will teach you something about what it means to love your passion, what it means to love your gift, what it means to step into your calling. And I'm thinking about a moment that really tested me last year. It was really difficult for me to come to terms with I wasn't where I wanted to be, and yet I was bringing a child into the world. And I think I was kind of down on myself for a while, but then I realized, but hey, Raina, look how many people you've interviewed who they had babies. They've had unexpected things happen to them, but they did not let that stop them. Or they let that stop them at the time, but in retrospect, they're like, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And along that lines, in this number 4, sometimes driving may feel like you aren't going anywhere. And I think that's something I reiterated, right? I was still driving 2020, but I didn't necessarily feel like I was making any grand strides. But sometimes that being in neutral is important. I was in neutral 2020, right? I had to really take that time to rest. Maybe that's what I needed. Maybe I needed the rest of 2020. Maybe I needed to just have a different experience because I had been going and building Dreams and Drive for so long. So you have to remember, in the times of neutral doesn't mean that you're not making progress. In the times of neutral doesn't mean that you are any less important, right? People were still listening to Dreams and Drive though, right? I may have not put out an episode. People were still listening. People were still downloading. I never went to 0 downloads a day. Every single day since this podcast has been out, someone has listened to it. So that's another reminder. There are still new people who need what you're making. There are still people who want to engage with you. Finally, I'm going to reiterate this one again. If it's your calling, it's going to keep calling. You can't run from the gift, right? It's funny because you ever have that experience where you're not even looking for something, but it finds you, or opportunities come your way that may seem like the right opportunity at the right time. That's part of your calling. That's part of your gift. So trust in that, believe in that. And then finally, for me, it was no matter what, you will be amazed by how far you've come. You will be amazed by what you were able to make happen. You will be amazed by what is yet to happen. And that's the beauty of dream driving to me personally, is being able to step into my vehicle, my car. Let's get metaphorical now, right? Step into my vehicle and not really know what I'm going to see out the mirror as I'm driving along, what the horizon is looking like, what the view looks like, because the view is going to change as you're driving in different terrains, different weather, different times of the day. The view changes. And that's what I'm really looking forward to, right? 5 years has come. Now, what's the next 5 years going to be like? And there's going to be things that I cannot even tell you. And that's what's really, I want to say, as I reflect on these past 5 years of Dreams and Drive and where I'm going. That's the theme for me is, I saw this quote, a lot can happen in a year. A lot can happen in a year. We all know that a lot has happened over the past year for all of us. So I just want to say thank you again to everybody who has been here for these 5 years of Dreams and Drive. I hope during my 6-year anniversary episode that there's something that we'll be talking about, that we'll be reflecting on. And I just hope that you continue to listen. There are 256 episodes prior to this one that are filled with knowledge, filled with guests sharing their stories, filled with me telling my stories, filled with insight about life. And I want every one of you if you haven't already, go back and listen to an old episode. Go back and listen to one that you haven't listened to before. Find something new. Challenge yourself to find out what other people navigated through, what challenges they worked through, and how that can impact your life. I think there's ways that we can reflect in everything. And no matter what, that's one thing that I really wanted to share with you all. And I really hope that this episode taught you a little something about resiliency and also gave you hope that wherever you are at your journey, it's really just the beginning. It's the beginning of the next part, right? This is just the beginning of the next part of the journey. So thank you all. I do appreciate you. So listen, guys, 5 years of Dreams and Drive. What can you do? You can help spread the word. Help me celebrate. Screenshot this episode, post it to your social media. We're Dreams and Drive across the board, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can use the hashtag when sharing Dreams and Drive as well. If you want to join our weekly newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly email updates from me about the show and other ways that you can put your dreams into drive, just sign up by going to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. If you want to cop your Dreams and Drive merchandise, remember we are doing 10% off this week. Just use the code CELEBRATE for 10% off your order. That's CELEBRATE for 10% off your Dreams and Drive merchandise order for the next week. As always, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again, guys, in the next episode. Bye.